The year I died was the year I loved him the most. Pay County. To comfort his white moonlight. Locked me in the basement for an entire day and night. Later, the electric wires short-circuited, and a fire broke out. I suffocated inside. With my last glance before death, I saw a young man holding a stool, madly smashing open the lock on the door, rushing to my side. The fire scorched his clothes, but he didn't care. Who was he? I couldn't remember. I only knew that, in the end, I died in his arms. After I died, my soul lingered beside the boy. The fire grew stronger, but he held me tightly, not moving. I screamed at him, telling him to run. Are you just going to wait here to die? But I knew he couldn't hear a ghost's cries. Finally, the fire truck arrived, and a dozen firefighters carried him out together. So, I finally left that damn basement. Outside, the sun was bright. It was a good day. I saw Pay County, pacing anxiously outside the villa, grabbing people and asking, did the girl in the basement make it out? Oh, he still didn't know I was dead. You see, this boy I liked for 10 years, even as I was swallowed by flames, didn't dare rush in to save my life. My body was still held in the young man's arms. Ignoring everyone, he walked straight to a black car, opened the door, and placed me in the passenger seat, even thoughtfully fastening the seatbelt for my lifeless body. Then, the car sped off, leaving the villa behind. With the dead girl in his arms, the boy fled. Like a scene straight out of a movie, we left the city. The scenery outside slowly turned into fields and villages. Then the beach. He arrived at the sea, an undeveloped, deserted shore. Finally, the car stopped. He carried me out, walking slowly into the depths of the ocean until we both sank beneath the water. He said, Jiang-hee, I am Linzhou. Do you remember me? Could it be a confession? Confession. Confession. I opened my eyes and found myself standing in a high school classroom, surrounded by 17 or 18-year-old classmates. A girl pushed me and said, Jiang-hee, is that a love letter in your hand? A crumpled piece of paper was twisted in my grip. The envelope addressed neatly to Pay County. I had returned to the day in high school when I confessed to Pay County. It was Friday afternoon, nearly time for dismissal. In 5 minutes, Pay County would enter the classroom, and I would hand him this letter in front of everyone. What did he say back then? Oh, he said, sorry, I don't want to date right now. No. I shook my head. You got it wrong. Just then, Pay County entered from the doorway. Someone called out, Pay County, Jiang-hee wants to talk to you. In a teasing tone, I tore the letter in half and calmly said, it's nothing. Everyone's just joking. I tossed the shredded paper into the trash. Pay County looked at me for a moment, then returned to his seat. The onlooker sighed in disappointment. Oh, I thought there was going to be some drama. Guess not. I flipped through my book, waiting for the end of the day. Everyone was happily packing up, but I had a vague feeling that I'd forgotten something. Maybe, back then, it wasn't important, so it got buried in the river of memories. Until the homeroom teacher entered. I suddenly remembered. It was him. The classmates muttered, look at the time. It's almost dismissal. Our homeroom teacher frowned. Our school was a private elite institution, attended mostly by the wealthy, so he had a hard time managing the students. He gestured to someone outside the door. Come in. He walked into the classroom. Linzhou, I remembered. He was a transfer student who joined in senior year from another city. He always wore a washed-out uniform and carried an old, worn-out backpack, different from the opulent style of everyone else. Perhaps because of that, he rarely spoke and was often isolated, always sitting at the back, working through practice problems. But his grades were excellent, consistently in the top 3, especially in subjects like physics, where he almost always scored full marks. Linzhou bent slightly and introduced himself. My name is Linzhou. Zhou, as in water can carry a boat or capsize it. I transferred here from Chu City. The teacher nodded, pointing to an empty seat in the back. You can sit there. Linzhou walked slowly across the room to his seat behind me. He carefully placed his books on the desk, looking a bit nervous but also a little lost. It was fine, though. At 17, we still had time, a chance to start over. After the teacher left, the class grew noisy again. everyone turning back to look at Lin Zhou with curiosity. A notorious troublemaker named Fu Sheng walked over and asked him, Chu City, that's the coal mining city nearby. Right. My family has a business around here as well. What's your father's name? Maybe my parents know him. Lin Zhou pinched his fingertips. A bit flustered, he murmured, my dad doesn't run a business. He just. Could he be digging coal down in the mines? Fu Sheng picked up where he left off and laughed. Around here, plenty of people learned early on to fawn over the rich and look down on the poor. Many found it amusing and came over to watch. Making Fu Sheng even more smug, he picked up Lin Zhou's book and sniffed it. It really does have a musty smell, he sneered. Laughter rang out, cold and mocking. I couldn't stand it anymore. I stood up and splashed water from my cup over Fu Sheng's head. What are you? A dog? Sniffing like that? Fu Sheng glared at me, soaked and humiliated. He rolled up his sleeves and angrily shouted, Jiang He, are you looking to die? Sorry, but I already have. Maybe the Jiang He from high school was shy and reserved, but not the Jiang He who had lived for 28 years. I smiled. Yeah, looking to die. But we didn't end up fighting. Pei County walked over, frowning as he looked at me. What's wrong with you today? Go home. Pei County was the class monitor, and his family was the most influential in the entire southern city. Naturally, Fu Sheng wouldn't pick a fight with him. Yet, seeing Pei County only made me remember that towering inferno and the suffocating smoke that choked me to death. I told him, let's not go home together anymore. I'm staying to do problems and prepare for the college entrance exam. Pei County huffed, giving me a strange look. Jiang He, what's gotten into you? Just don't want to see you anymore. I pointed to the classroom door. Can you not disturb my studies? There's someone waiting for you outside. The class beauty from the next class. He Meng. Pei County. He Meng. And I grew up together. Our families did business together and often interacted. I used to think Pei County treated me well, calling me little sister he. But of course, he only saw me as a sister. The one he liked was always He Meng. He Meng waved from the doorway, calling, Peiji, what are you two talking about? Are you coming or not? Pei County glanced at me, tapping his finger on my desk. If physics is too hard, I can tutor you over the weekend. Then he grabbed his bag and headed toward He Meng. In the end, it was just Lin Zhou and me left in the classroom. The clock ticked on, and behind me, I heard the faint scratching of Lin Zhou's pen on his notebook. My impression of him had always been that of a diligent student. But Lin Zhou, I wonder, what do you see when you look at me? I turned around, resting my hand on the back of my chair, studying him closely. His eyebrows and mouth started to blend with the image of that man holding me in the fire. He said, Jiang He, I'm Lin Zhou. Do you remember me? I must have been staring too intently because Lin Zhou looked up, touching his chin and cautiously asking, is there something on my face? I quickly shook my head, stammering, no, nothing. Awkward. To break the tension, I grabbed a physics practice book from my desk, turned to a page, and put it in front of him. Could you help me with this problem? Lin Zhou's face immediately relaxed. He glanced at the problem and said, this one isn't too hard. Simple as it was, I still didn't understand it. My physics was atrocious, always dragging my scores down. He took out a sheet of paper, scribbling 2 equations. It's just like this, then this, and then this. Got it. I responded with a long he smiled. How about I help you build a foundation first? He must have noticed my blank expression, realizing my real level. He closed the practice book, took out his textbook, and said softly, let's start from chapter 1. Lin Zhou's tutoring was better than my rigid high school teacher or any cram school. In my past life, I followed behind Pei County, pestering him with all sorts of questions. Pei County, can you go over the kinetic energy theorem? Pei County, why can't I ever solve the last problem in math? Pei County, I'm so frustrated. No wonder he often gave me a cold look and said, are you an idiot? Jiang He? You're hopeless. Until the school security guard came by, standing in the doorway and shouting at us. What are you two doing here so late? Isn't it time to go home? Only then did Lin Zhou and I realize it was nearly 8 p.m. and the school was about to close. We quickly packed up our bags, apologizing as we ran out. At the school gate, a car honked nearby. It was my family's driver, Uncle Zhang, who had come to pick me up. He rolled down the window, calling, "Miss He, hurry up. Your mom's waiting for you at home for dinner." Uncle Zhang gave me a sharp look. Not very pleased. I quickly opened the door. But before getting in, I turned back to Lin Zhou. "Lin Zhou, it's late. Do you need a ride home?" "No, my house is far. Out in the west suburbs. It's not on your way." He flashed that awkward, slightly stiff smile. "Besides, there's still a bus at this hour, it's convenient." Lin Zhou waved at me and jogged toward the bus stop. The west suburbs were far. The bus ride took over an hour. I'd only been there once. It wasn't fully developed yet. Everywhere there are old low-rise buildings, with garbage piled up on the ground. I called out to him, "Lin Zhou." He turned his head around, and I asked, "Do you know my name?" "Under the streetlight." His face was slightly flushed. I said, "My name is Jiang He, the Jiang for ginger, and the He for seedling. Remember it well. Although I've traveled back in time, none of my high school academic knowledge came with me. It's truly a tragedy. Adding to that, I was just an average student in terms of intelligence. So now I have no choice but to hunch over my desk on weekends, poring over high school textbooks, where almost every line is filled with notes. I'm not smart, but I've always been diligent." Just as I was immersed in the material, my phone rang, startling me. It was He Meng. She sent a photo on WeChat, a picture of the library study room with several books and 2 cups of milk tea on a desk, along with an unhappy emoji. "Little He, come keep me company. It's boring studying on the weekend, and I'm not even a cultural studies student. Are you coming?" He Meng is a dance major. Pei County sure is something. I never thought his brain would be wired this way, taking someone to the library for a date. I replied simply, "No." She didn't reply again. I went back to my studies, but as I continued, my head felt like mush. I missed how clearly Lin Zhou had explained things to me that afternoon. I opened my phone, downloaded the recently updated contact list from the class group chat, found Lin Zhou's number, and called him. He answered quickly. "Lin Zhou," I said. "Jiang He." He hesitated. I laughed. "I was working on some problems and thought of you. Hope I'm not disturbing you." We talked about all sorts of things, the strictest teachers in class, the ones with a bit of favoritism, and some school legends and gossip that had been around for ages but that Lin Zhou had never heard before. He kept responding, occasionally joining in with exaggerated exclamations, fully satisfying my storytelling urge. He really was a gentle person. But why can't I remember when and where I had crossed paths with him before? We chatted for quite a while before hanging up. I then opened my social media feed and noticed that Pei County had unusually posted an update. "Reviewed some physics concepts today. Quite rewarding." The picture showed part of a physics workbook, with a flood of likes and comments. "Class monitor. Teach us. Physics is so hard. Wow. Even the top student is studying seriously now. Pei County. If you improve anymore, you'll score 200 points. Before Lin Zhou transferred to our class, Pei County had always ranked first, his score far ahead of the second place. But once Lin Zhou arrived, Pei County's position began to waver, with the two of them constantly taking turns as first and second. The rest of the class loved to watch the rivalry between these two academic champions. However, from what I remember, Pei County and Lin Zhou hadn't exchanged more than 10 sentences, and weren't particularly close. I felt a bit guilty for bothering Lin Zhou for so long, so that evening, I rummaged through the kitchen for ingredients and baked a box of cookies to give him as a gift. In the past, I'd often tinkered with these little things, even bringing my baked goods for Pei County to try. However, I once visited his office and accidentally saw a drawer full of my cookies, barely touched and some even moldy. Only then did I realize he never really liked the things I made. My mom heard me in the kitchen and came down, frowning. "Pei County doesn't even like these. Can't you make something else?" "Who says this is for Pei County?" I said, proudly lifting my head as I packed the cookies in a box. "It's for a new classmate." Mom gave me a strange look, clicking her tongue in surprise. The next day during break, I turned around and placed the cookies on Lin Zhou's desk. He carefully opened the box, his eyes lighting up, looking both surprised and delighted. yet a little unsure. He said, "Jiang-hee, you're the first to ever make me cookies. How nice it feels to have my work appreciated." Just then, Pei County came out of the teacher's office with a stack of papers. As he passed by, he paused, glanced at us, and suddenly asked, "Did you make those cookies?" He startled both Lin Zhou and me. Pei County stared at the cookies for a moment and said, "Jiang-hee, didn't you once say you'd never give your handmade treats to anyone?" I scratched my head, remembering that when I chased after Pei County in high school, I did say something like, "Pei County, no one else will ever taste my handmade treats." How silly of me, I thought, feeling a bit embarrassed as I lowered my head, not wanting to talk to him. Since I didn't respond, Pei County turned his attention to Lin Zhou instead. "I hear you're good at physics," he remarked, placing the papers on the desk as if choosing a random topic. Lin Zhou shook his head modestly. "Not really. Just average." "No need to be so modest." Pei County pulled out a paper from the stack and handed it to him. 98 points, quite high. This was your entrance test paper when you transferred, right? I just picked it up from the office along with the quiz results. I leaned over to look. Apart from a few points deducted on the last problem, the rest were all perfect scores. Pei County pointed to the marked problem and said, "This is a physics competition question. Take another look at it." In my past life, Pei County always had private lessons with outside tutors for subjects like physics. Preparing for the physics competition, he eventually won an award, which even boosted his college entrance exam score. Seeing my attentive listening, he flicked my forehead and asked, "Jiang-hee, do you understand?" Annoyed, I glared at Pei County. "Don't underestimate me. Don't think I can't make progress." Unexpectedly, his smile softened a bit. "Why didn't you come to the library this weekend? Didn't I say I'd help you with your questions?" This was the first time he said something like that, but I shook my head. "If I don't understand, I'll just ask Lin Zhou. He sits right behind me." Pei County's expression froze. He glanced at me, then at Lin Zhou, but said nothing. Holding his papers, he walked away, stopping only a few steps away to turn back and say coolly, "Jiang-hee, Meng's party next Saturday, you have to show up." Right. Meng's celebration party would be a turning point. Meng was an art major, so her academic requirements were low. As long as she did reasonably well, she could get into a decent school. In my last life, she outdid herself and received offers from a few reputable dance schools. Her father threw a banquet at a 5-star hotel to celebrate, even giving her 2 days off to party with friends, with the condition that she couldn't stay out overnight. Her dad's rule made sense. Meng had many friends from all walks of life. She rented a luxury suite in a KTV for the party, and I went as well. There were classmates from our school and some friends from her external art classes. The atmosphere was chaotic and noisy. Pei County and Meng were at the center, being cheered on to sing a duet. Near midnight, my mom video called me. Meng saw the caller ID and said, "Your mom went shopping with mine today. They're probably at your place playing mahjong now." I turned off my phone. "Don't answer, or she'll definitely try to drag me home through you." But I was the obedient type, so I answered. As expected, it was my mom and Meng's mom. Meng's mom, with her loud voice, scolded us over the noise. "Meng, do you know what time it is? Are you coming home or not? Tell me where you are. I'll send the family driver to pick you up." Meng rolled her eyes and grumbled, "Mom, stop nagging. Let me have one night of fun after exams. I'm not going to get hurt." The two of them argued back and forth, until finally, her mom declared, "If you don't come home tonight, don't expect your allowance next month." Meng, who got a hefty monthly allowance of 50.000 yuan, fell silent at that. She ended the call, mumbling about her night being ruined. Pei County then walked us downstairs and waited with us in the lobby until Uncle Zhang arrived to pick us up. Meng didn't speak to Pei County the entire time. She was upset. During the call with her mom, she had signaled to him, hoping he would say something on her behalf, even just to reassure her mom by saying he'd look after her tonight. Meng's mom adored Pei County and even had hopes of pairing them up, so if Pei County had said something, her mom might have agreed. But he remained distant and indifferent that night, leaving Meng with no choice but to come home with me. She stomped her foot in frustration and muttered angrily, "You two are the worst. Totally ruined the fun." On the way home that night, we got into a car accident. The traffic police later concluded that it was Uncle Zhang's fault due to drunk driving. He took full responsibility. Meng and I spent half a month in the hospital. Her injuries were worse than mine, with ligament damage in her leg that would keep her from dancing for years. Her mother wept bitterly by her bedside, promising Uncle Zhang he'd pay for this with his life. He faced legal consequences and paid compensation, but no amount of money could mend what was broken. This accident was a turning point. Without it, Meng would have stayed in the country, and the three of us would have continued our friendship as it was in high school. A few years later, Pei County might have ended up with Meng. It would have hurt me, but after crying it out, I would have gladly given them my blessing and moved on with my own life. But that accident changed everything. Meng abandoned dance school and went abroad to study art. Pei County and I went to the same city for university and saw each other occasionally. He knew I had feelings for him, but his most frequent words to me were, "Jianghe, do you really think you're doing right by Meng?" Guilt haunted both of us. He would fly across half of China to buy almond cookies from Macau for Meng and mail them overseas. He'd also set his alarm and stay up late to get Cho concert tickets for her, just because she mentioned wanting to see him live. And gifts for holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries were never missed. Later, after living abroad for a few years, Meng returned to China, and Pei County gathered their old friends to throw a celebration for her. The party lasted until dawn. After singing a song, Meng suddenly held the microphone and asked me, "Jianghe, you've been graduated for so many years, does your mom still care if you come home at night?" That moment, the air grew eerily silent. I knew she had never truly forgiven me. Pei County helplessly called her, "Meng, Pei, don't interrupt me," she snapped, having had a bit to drink. Her tone grew aggressive. "Jianghe, aren't you the obedient one? You don't fit in with us anyway. Why not lock you up in a little room on your own? You'd probably be happier there." She clung onto Pei County's arm, her voice sweet yet mocking. I had no words, feeling an urge to argue but also guilt that silenced me. Pei County sighed, glanced at me, then took out the key and locked me in the basement with Meng's assistance. Meng tapped on the basement door and laughed, calling, "Jianghe, I'll let you out when the party's over." I didn't know why her party went on for so long, but I only knew that a fire broke out. In this new life, I wouldn't let the tragedy happen again. I knew it was almost impossible to stop Meng from celebrating her exam results, so I chose not to attend myself. Without me, Uncle Zhang wouldn't drive to pick us up. On Saturday night, Pei County called, asking, "When are you coming over?" It was noisy on his end, and I barely made out his words. "I'm not going. I'm studying," I said. After a brief silence, Pei County coldly replied, "Suit yourself," and hung up. I figured that my reputation as a hard-working bookworm was now firmly established. Around midnight, I went downstairs and saw Uncle Zhang in the kitchen, video calling an old friend from his military days, chatting and drinking. He waved when he saw me. "Xiaohe, why aren't you asleep yet?" I opened my mouth, hesitant, but eventually said, "Uncle Zhang, you're getting older now. Maybe drink a little less in the future." In the living room, a few ladies were cheerfully playing mahjong. Meng's mom had just won a hand, and her luck was strong. She glanced at the time and suddenly remembered, "Oh, Meng went out to celebrate tonight. I wonder if she's back yet. Let me give her a call." But her phone was off, and every call went unanswered. One of her friends playfully teased, "It's your turn to deal. Winning money and now you're running away." Meng's lying in bed. I watched the clock as time passed by. The night outside was calm, just like any other. Slowly, I drifted into sleep. The next morning, my mom woke me up. "Jianghe, come down for breakfast." It was only 8 o'clock. Groggy, I grabbed my phone and started scrolling through my feed. One of my classmates had posted, "Our school beauty and top student perfect match." The photo was of Pei County and Meng. They were both dozing on the sofa, Meng's head gently resting on Pei County's shoulder. Likely worn out from the late party. Sensing the gossip potential, someone had snapped a picture and shared it online. leading to numerous teasing comments below. I knew something was going on between them, our school's top-tier couple. Seeing the photo, I instantly woke up, sitting up in bed. The car accident really hadn't happened. Shermeng hadn't left the celebration, and everything was fine. Excited, I quickly liked the post and added, "This is wonderful." But moments later, when I refreshed, the post was gone. Pei County then called me. "Jiang he said in an inexplicably gentle tone. "Last night things got pretty wild. I left midway and didn't join the rest of the fun." I didn't know why he told me that. He chuckled. "I thought you'd come. If I'd known you weren't going, I wouldn't have gone either." I scratched my nose, unsure how to respond. After a pause, I said, "If there's nothing else, I'm going to have breakfast." He replied, "See you at school tomorrow." Though the photo had been deleted, rumors spread quickly, especially since many classmates had attended Shermeng's party. On Monday, I could feel the buzz of gossip among everyone, but I kept out of it. After all, the monthly exams were coming up, and it was Lin Zhou's first major exam since transferring schools. The homeroom teacher made a suspenseful announcement about the rankings. "We have a dark horse in the class this time. Competition is what drives improvement." "Right." He paused. Lin Zhou came first in the grade. The class erupted. For the first time, top-ranking Pei County had been overtaken. Lin Zhou, the transfer student who barely spoke to any of us, had emerged as a rival just before the college entrance exams. Although I already knew Lin Zhou's capabilities, that didn't stop me from feeling excited. I turned around, reaching out in excitement to ruffle Lin Zhou's hair. "Lin Zhou, you're amazing." His hair became a mess, but he wasn't upset, he just smiled gently. My desk mate, however, couldn't stand it and nudged me with an elbow. "Jiang He, keep it down," he said, giving me a look. "Can't you see that the class monitor is unhappy?" Following his gaze, I saw Peixian sitting by the wall, looking over at me and Lin Zhou with a cold stare. His lips pressed into a thin line, almost frozen into a statue. I suddenly felt a chill, realizing my lack of empathy. Peixian had been the top student for nearly 3 years, and now, he'd fallen to second place. Anyone would be upset in his position, and here I was, laughing without a care. Wasn't that like rubbing salt in the wound? I coughed twice, lowering my excitement a bit, and eventually, Peixian's gaze moved away from me. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to Lin Zhou's tutoring, my grades had improved significantly, and now, every Friday after school, I'd voluntarily stay and study with him for another 2 hours, benefiting from his guidance. Unexpectedly, Peixian also stayed behind. When the bell rang, Shermeng came running to our classroom door. "Pei, let's go home." She waved at him as she used to, but Peixian didn't respond or pack up. Instead, he told her, "You go ahead. I'm staying a bit longer to study." Everyone who hadn't left yet turned to look. "Class monitor, isn't that a bit much? You already have a guaranteed spot, no need to stress us out." Thanks to an award in the Olympiad, Peixian's target university had lowered his required score by 60 points, so even if he didn't do his best, he was assured admission. Peixian ignored them, waited until everyone left, and then moved his books over to sit next to me. Surprised, I asked, Peixian replied naturally, "You're closer to Lin Zhou here, so it's easier for us to discuss problems together." That left me speechless. Should I give you 2 top students some space then? But before I could say more, Peixian took out a question and started discussing it with Lin Zhou. "Lin, do you have a simpler solution for this problem? I feel like I'm overthinking it." Glancing over, I realized it was a question I had gotten wrong on the test. So, I obediently stayed silent and listened as the 2 of them exchanged academic ideas, taking in their wisdom. By the end of the evening study session, I felt as though my brain cells were in overdrive. Peixian and Lin Zhou often had different problem-solving approaches, and their discussions sparked new insights. Around 8 p.m., Peixian tapped me on the head with his book. "Jiang He, time to go home." I snapped back to reality. "Right. Let's go." Since I'd let my mom know that I'd be studying at school on Friday nights, she arranged for Uncle Zhang to pick me up 2 hours later. Lin Zhou continued to insist on taking the bus home, never allowing me to give him a ride. This time, though, Peixian joined us. Despite being a rich second-generation heir, he didn't have a family car pick him up. Pei Xian rubbed his nose and shamelessly looked at me. Let Uncle Zhang give me a ride home. Didn't our families take turns picking us up after school back in the day? I rolled my eyes. Class monitor. Can't you learn from Lin Zhou and take the bus home? It's more eco-friendly. Pei Xian ignored my reasoning. Or should I call your mom and tell her you left me stranded at the school gate in the middle of the night? Defeated, I climbed into the back seat, with Uncle Zhang driving quietly in the front. Suddenly, Pei Xian asked, Jiang He, the college entrance exams are only a few months away. Have you decided where you want to go? His question reminded me to start considering my future plans. I wanted to go south to see the sea, but in my past life, I chose a northern university just to follow Pei Xian. Not that the city was bad, it just didn't suit me. Pei Xian noticed my silence and softly added, When you decide, let me know. He took a deep breath, as if steeling himself, then looked at me with determination. I want to go to the same city as you. I was taken aback. Don't you already have a top university lined up with a guaranteed spot? More importantly, that school also provides Pei Jia with extensive networking resources. Most of his friends and relatives graduated from there. He really has no reason to change his target school now. He shook his head without answering my question, simply repeating, Jiang He, we need to be in the same city in the future. I wasn't interested in being in the same city as Pei Xian. That night, curled up under my blanket, I texted Lin Zhou. Hey Lin, have you decided which university you want to apply to? After sending it, I realized how pointless my question was. With Lin Zhou's grades, he could practically choose any school he wanted. He replied quickly, Not yet. What about you? I typed back while imagining, I want to go somewhere warm and humid, where I can see the sea. He responded, Coincidentally, so do I. This guy was clearly copying me. In my past life, I worked hard in high school largely so I could go to the same place as Pei Xian. But this time, I wanted to work hard for myself. In the second semester of senior year, the class atmosphere started becoming more serious. The countdown to the college entrance exams weighed heavily on everyone. Even at our private high school, the principal organized a motivational rally, inviting the top-ranking students to give speeches about their study and test-taking experiences. Naturally, Pei Xian and Lin Zhou, the top academic achievers, were selected as student speakers. I remembered this rally as boring to death. Last time, I endured until Pei Xian's turn, listened to his articulate speech, and then couldn't take any more and slipped out to take a walk on the sports field. I had no recollection of Lin Zhou's speech. Maybe I missed it by leaving early. I regretted it a bit now. This time, determined not to miss it, I paid full attention, waiting for Lin Zhou's turn. However, even after Pei Xian finished, and most of the speakers had come and gone, there was still no sign of Lin Zhou. Just then, one of the event organizers from the student council walked by, and I grabbed his arm, asking, Hey, where's Lin Zhou from our class? He didn't go up. He frowned, annoyed. We tried calling him, but he didn't answer. He's messed up the order we set. What's going on? A sense of unease washed over me, and I sprang up, running out of the auditorium. Where could he be? I pulled out my phone to call Lin Zhou, but just as the student council member had said, he didn't pick up after several tries. With the campus so large, I roamed aimlessly between the school buildings, calling his number repeatedly and trying to reassure myself that he wasn't a little kid. He'd be fine. Finally, as I neared the sports field, a sudden memory flooded back. I remembered sneaking out of the rally after Pei Xian's speech in my previous life, walking to the gym, and hearing strange noises and shouts. Out of curiosity, I approached the window and saw some classmates surrounding a boy, punching and kicking him while hurling insults. At the time, driven by a sense of justice, I barged in, pulled the boy out from the group, and snapped, If you keep bullying him, I'll tell the teacher. Thinking back now, I realized that boy was Lin Zhou. I dashed towards the gym, threw open the door, and saw the exact scene from my memory. Lin Zhou surrounded by classmates, with a few troublemakers from our class, including Fu Sheng, standing among them. So what if your family digs coal? You think you're hot stuff because you're good at studying? Want to give a speech on stage? No way. I just can't stand high and mighty types like you. After getting to know Lin Zhou, I realized his school life was harsher than I'd thought. In a school like ours, with tightly knit social cliques, Lin Zhou was an outlier, a quiet, top-performing transfer student from a poor family who didn't belong to any group and often became a target for bullying. In this life, at least, he had me as a friend. I couldn't imagine how lonely he must have felt before. Maybe that's why he appreciated even the smallest kindness. My act of pulling him out of Fushang's grasp last time had clearly left an impression on him. I ignored Fushang and the others, marching up with determination. Jianghe, what are you doing? Playing hero now? This doesn't match the usual script. He sneered. My timing was off too since the rally had ended. Students were starting to gather nearby. Noticing the commotion and peeking in to watch. Seeing the audience, Fushang looked even more excited. Jianghe, I've known for a while that something's up between you two. Admit it. You're into him, right? If it were anyone else, I'd leave Lin Zhou alone. But it had to be you. So, if you admit you like him, I'll apologize. Our school loved gossip, and the surrounding students all began murmuring in excitement. Who's that? Oh, it's Jianghe from class 4. And Lin Zhou, our top student. Lin Zhou tugged at my hand, his face pale. Forget it. Jianghe, don't trouble yourself. There are so many people here. What could he possibly do to me? But I'm the type who can't resist a challenge. I squared my shoulders and said boldly, so what if I like him? Is having a crush a crime? Which school rule says we can't date? Admitting it so openly wasn't as hard as I'd imagined. Everyone looked stunned. No one made a sound, not even the usual cheers from the onlookers. It was Fushang who broke the silence first, stuttering. Jianghe, a hero among women. What are you doing? Gathering a crowd in the market? That moment, an abrupt voice came from the back of the crowd. It's not even the college entrance exam yet. It was the student council president, who pointed at Fushang and his group, speaking sternly. You're about to graduate, and you're still bullying your fellow students? Haven't you read the school rules? Don't you know that bullying is strictly prohibited at our school? The crowd instinctively parted to make way. The president continued. This is one of the most important rules in our school's code of conduct. Although bullying and exclusion of weaker students happen privately, it rarely reached the school authorities. But this time, Fushang would be in trouble. The president pointed at each of them. You, and you. All of you come with me to the principal's office. After calling out names, the president turned to someone behind him, saying, Pei Xian, I'll go talk to the teacher first. Are you coming? That's when I realized Pei Xian had come with the student council president. He had been standing in the shadows, and I hadn't noticed. Pei Xian shook his head, then suddenly pointed at Lin Zhou. Let Lin Zhou come too. After all, he's the one involved, and he can clarify things. The president nodded and waved his hand, signaling them to take everyone away. Fushang yelled for help. I don't want to see the disciplinary director. The president patted his head. That's not up to you. The onlookers, seeing that the main event was over, quickly dispersed. I had planned to wait for Lin Zhou outside the office, but just as I was about to follow him, someone suddenly grabbed my wrist. It was Pei Xian, looking at me with dark eyes. Jianghe, come with me. I noticed that his face was as pale as paper, and his lips trembled slightly, as though he was holding back some intense emotion. What's going on? I whispered. He grabbed me firmly, not giving me a chance to refuse, and pushed me into a corner. Pei Xian was much taller than me, and now, he was very close, which made the pressure overwhelming. Jianghe, he frowned, trying to steady his voice. I understand you wanted to help Lin Zhou today, but you could have called a teacher or called me. You didn't need to do it this way. Oh, I see. I realized. He thought I was just trying to help out of kindness, that my confession of liking Lin Zhou was a strategy to help. I smiled. Pei Xian, you're wrong. I didn't help out of the kindness of my heart. I really like Lin Zhou. Pei Xian seemed stunned by my words, frozen for a moment. He didn't say a word for quite a while. His face showed a mixture of pain, panic, and some pity. Suddenly, he took out a torn piece of letter paper from his pocket, carefully holding it out for me to see. Jianghe, he asked, You're lying to me, aren't you? Where did I go wrong? You can't possibly like Lin Zhou. If you did, how could you write me this letter? It was the love letter I had written to Pei Xian, but I had torn it up and thrown it in the trash. I didn't know how it ended up in Pei Xian's hands. I stared at him, confused. Pei Xian gave a bitter smile and admitted without hesitation. I picked it up from the trash. I admit, that time, I wasn't sure how much I liked you. I was also afraid that a relationship in senior year would affect my studies. But I never imagined you, Jiang He, would like someone else. Seeing that letter, I felt a strange sense of relief. It seemed like my unrequited love for Pei Xian had ended, and maybe that wasn't such a bad thing. I snatched the letter from his hands, tore it into smaller pieces, and opened the window, throwing the scraps outside. The torn paper fluttered in the wind, never to be put together again. Pei Xian's expression changed, and he rushed to the window, gripping the frame and leaning out. His teeth clenched as he said, Jiang He, from the moment you threw that letter away, you should have known that I don't like you. From now on, don't come to me with anything important. As you said, we all have to focus on the college entrance exam. Right. The next day, when I entered the classroom, I felt that all the students were looking at me. Normally, I wouldn't care. I sat down at my desk and opened my book to study, but it was already morning self-study time, and Lin Zhou still hadn't come. I tapped my deskmate's hand and asked, Where's Lin Zhou? My deskmate gave me a casual glance. You don't know? Because of the mess you caused yesterday, Fu Shang has become the typical case of bullying at the school. He has to make a public apology during morning self-study. Lin Zhou is probably dealing with that with the teacher right now. As we were talking, the loudspeaker in the classroom rang, and the disciplinary director's voice echoed. There has been a very serious bullying incident at the school, and it has had a very bad impact. It is necessary for the students involved to give a deep reflection and apology. Fu Shang and his cohorts, who had once been so arrogant, now looked like defeated eggplants. Each of them apologized in a muffled voice. The students in the class, hearing this, kept their heads down, trying to stifle their laughter. I couldn't help but chuckle as well. The disciplinary director asked Lin Zhou if he accepted their apologies. Lin Zhou calmly responded, I never paid attention to them. They're not on the same level as me. No matter how loudly they act up, what does it matter? I almost wanted to clap for him under the desk, but the next moment, he suddenly turned to me and said, Jiang He, I feel that I should be the one to confess. I like you. I froze. My deskmate spat out his water and stared at me in shock. Wow, you two are feeding us dog food in front of the whole school. As a result, both Lin Zhou and I had to write a self-reflection. But the two of us can grow up openly and hold hands on campus. Although early relationships seem to be detrimental to studying, my boyfriend is the top student in the year. How could I not take advantage of such a big buff? With his companionship and explanations, the science subjects I was monitoring seemed to become more vivid. The whole second semester of senior year didn't seem as hard to endure. Time passed quickly. Then I suddenly realized I hadn't paid attention to Pei Xian in a long time. He no longer stayed behind for self-study during lunch or afternoon breaks. Even when he passed by me and Lin Zhou on campus, he would lower his head and walk past quickly. It seemed like he was really putting into practice the words I had said before no longer bothering me. When the college entrance exam results came out, I was at an internet cafe, teaching Lin Zhou how to last-hit minions. Suddenly, the class group chat exploded with messages. Someone posted a message saying, Help! The exam results are out. Lin Zhou and I immediately stopped everything, logged off, and picked up our phones. I quickly checked my results, and they were 30-40 points higher than my usual scores. Truly an exceptional performance. I shouted excitedly, then looked at Lin Zhou's phone screen. There seemed to be a problem on his end. It looked like a major one. His screen showed 0 points. My hands trembled as I asked quietly, How could this be? Did you forget to write your name? Or was there a mistake with the exam number? Lin Zhou shook his head, his finger slowly moving toward a line of small text at the bottom of the screen. Your rank is in the top 50 of the province. Please check the details soon. I screamed and hugged Lin Zhou. The guy next to us playing games took off his headphones and looked at us with confusion. How many kills did you get to be so excited? My face turned red, and I lowered my voice. Linzhou, which school are you going to apply for? Linzhou smiled, ruffled my hair, and said, I'll discuss it with you later. A famous university in the South gave Linzhou a full scholarship and allowed him to choose his major freely. I was admitted to a nearby teacher's college. Everything seemed to follow the expected path. Except for Pei Xian. A few days before the deadline for submitting college applications, I received a call from Pei Xian's father. Jiang He, can you do me a favor and persuade Pei Xian to apply to University A as planned? I then learned that Pei Xian hadn't performed well on the exam and hadn't met the cutoff for the top national university's business programs. However, with the extra 60 points from University A's special offer, he could still get in. To be honest, I didn't quite understand why Pei Xian's father called me. Firstly, in this situation, why would Pei Xian still hesitate about going to University A? One of the top schools in the country. I couldn't understand that at all. Secondly, as an outsider, what could I persuade him to do? But since Pei Xian's father was an elder, it was hard for me to refuse his request. So, after hanging up, I called Pei Xian. After a long pause, he finally answered. I hesitated for a moment before asking, Pei Xian, haven't you decided which school to apply for yet? Pei Xian's voice sounded tired. For a moment, I felt a sense of frustration and disappointment. Are you out of your mind? What are you thinking? You're going to University A, right? With your level, don't you think it's a waste to go to a regular university? I wasn't sure if I was being too harsh, but for a while, Pei Xian didn't respond. After a long pause, he slowly spoke. Jiang He, I'm afraid if I go too far, you'll forget about me. Jiang He, I want to go to college in the same city as you. So that's how he truly felt. But Pei Xian, there's no need for that. I spoke coldly. If you do this, I'll lose respect for you. Do you want us to stop even being ordinary friends? Pei Xian went to University A, passed his cultural exam smoothly, and was admitted to a dance academy in the same northern city. Linzhou and I were admitted to universities in the south. Everything seemed perfect. There were no accidents, no pain, and no later drama. Our families still had a good relationship and we celebrated together for a few days. Our parents even said they would take us to the airport to see us off to university. At the airport, Linzhou and I were on the same flight, while Shimon was on another flight. One was heading south, the other north. We parted at the gate, and I linked arms with Linzhou, handing him my backpack. Shimon also tried to reach out to Pei Xian's hand, but he subtly moved away, keeping his distance, cold and distant. He looked at me, opened his mouth, but in the end, said nothing. I waved goodbye to them. Goodbye. Maybe we won't meet for a long time.